Hey guys, it's Beth, and today I have a process video for you on how I make my reversible letter block sets. And here is a paper that shows you the measurements for all the blocks that I'm using. So you can either pause this and take a picture, screenshot it, whatever you need to do. And then the paper I'm using is from the All Seasons 3 pad from the Paper Studio that I am working on using up. And the blocks are made from pine 2x4s. So I'll be applying the paper to the blocks using Mod Podge, which flashes right there, and then a foam brush. And that's basically it, plus a squeegee. So I am putting some Mod Podge on my block and on the back of the paper, and that is kind of what glues the paper to the block. And then I'm just using the squeegee and my fingers to smooth it out really well. Make sure there's no air bubbles. And in case you're wondering, the stain, like we've cut down the 2x4s, sanded them really well, and then stained them. And the stain that we used here is called ebony. And the letters I cut using my silhouette. And basically in the design space, I drew a rectangle that was just shy of the size of the front of my blocks. And then I added my letter to the inside of that rectangle and then kind of grouped it together, or made it one. And so that when it cut both the rectangle and the letter. And then that way I can kind of get two different block versions out of one cut, essentially. So I can use this version, which has more of the paper background with the wood showing through as the letter. And then I can also use just like the negative, the letter itself, with more of the wood background. And I did a video on this last summer as well, doing a fall set. And so I will link that in the description box below, because I think on that one I just used the letters. So then you can kind of see both versions. So the front side of the blocks spelled out Merry in the Christmas patterns, and this side is going to spell out Hello in kind of a snowman pattern. So once I get the second side on and smoothed down really well, I'm going to do a coat of Mod Podge over the whole block, and that's going to act as the seal for all the paper. And then if anybody's really paying attention, you'll notice that I am applying the hello letters in reverse order. And that is because when we do our craft shows, we have open shelving, and when we put our reversible decor up there, we want to make sure it reads correctly from both sides. And so we apply one side kind of in the reverse order so that it reads correctly from left to right, regardless of which direction you're looking at it from. Because there are a lot of people who, even though it says something simple like hello or Merry, can't read it backwards. So for our sales benefit, we do it so that it reads correctly from both sides. So once I get all of my paper on, get all the blocks done and get a single coat over all of them, I kind of let them sit and cure for a bit, and then I'm going to come back in and do a second coat of Mod Podge over the whole thing. And I will include a list of all the products that I used in the description box below. And then I will include the block measurements down there as well. But as always, if you have any questions on anything, please just let me know. And one thing to point out is to just make sure you're aware or cognizant of the weight of the paper you're using. If you're using a thick paper, you need a little more pressure with the squeegee. If you're using a thin paper, you need kind of like this, you need a lighter touch, because it's very easy to tear or wrinkle the paper, which I totally did on this H. I got a bunch of wrinkles down there in the bottom left corner that I just couldn't fix. So this longer block at the bottom is actually going to have the word Christmas on one side, winter on the other. So I just took a coordinating piece of patterned paper and cut it down to fit this block, and I'm applying it with Mod Podge just like I did the letters. And so I set that aside to let it dry, and here's where I'm adding my second coat of Mod Podge. And then also at the very end, after all the Mod Podge has dried, I come back in with Minwax polyacrylic, and that I put 2 coats of that on as well, and that just gives it an extra seal coat and kind of keeps it from Mod Podge can stick sometimes if it gets humid, and so that kind of keeps everything from sticking together. So here I'm doing the back side of that longer block, and this paper is actually not part of the paper pad, but I needed a third pattern to coordinate with that kind of aqua snow themed paper, so I had to pull something out of my stash. So for the words on this longer block, I used Oracal vinyl, and I cut the words from my silhouette that say Christmas and winter. And then here I'm cutting down some transfer tape to use to get the vinyl from the backing onto my block. And once I get it on my block, I'm just using my finger to trace over the letters, because this transfer tape is pretty sticky, and so I'm trying not to rub it directly onto the paper background because it can tear the paper, especially the first few times that I use it. But you can reuse the same piece of transfer tape many, many times over. So once I get the vinyl letters on there, I also use a squeegee to kind of press down on the letters to make sure that they seal really well and that there are no bubbles in them as well. So once I get the vinyl on, I'm going to come over. I haven't done any Mod Podge as a seal coat on this longer block. I usually wait until I get my vinyl on, and then I do the same process, 2 coats of Mod Podge over the whole block, and then 2 coats of the polyacrylic. So here's the completed set. This side says Hello Winter. And then if you just turn it around, knock it over. If you turn it around, it says Merry Christmas. So now you have 2 holiday decorations on one piece. These sets make great mantle decor or sofa table decor, and they make holiday decorating so easy. You can just flip it around, keep it out longer, and enjoy it for a little bit longer throughout the season. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, products will be listed in the description box. If you haven't already, please subscribe to stay tuned for more ideas from this pad and others. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a crafty rest of your week.